We're back.
We're back.
And like we said in the commercial broadcast, we're kind of sad.
We're kind of sad. It's the end of the year.
It's our last broadcast for 2022.
Yeah. I wonder if they're depressed.
I
Or is
think
it
they're
just
probably.
us? Yeah, they're probably going, yeah, good. Thank you very much.
Can you guys wrap it up so
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
go sell something?
Yeah, there you
I
go.
think that's what I'm hearing.
That's
Hey,
probably it.
in the chat, post up your favorite Christmas movie if you hadn't. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of call you out there.
I'm disturbed by the fact that a lot of people put Die Hard.
I
I mean, what's wrong with our society when Die Hard becomes a movie classic? What is wrong with us?
This happened on the commercial broadcast. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like one of the most popular.
Joseph Whistler puts in
Joe Whistler.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Yeah, real nice, Clark.
Hey, I see Gary Hubbard's got Fred Claus. It's kind of unique. Gary Hubbard, again, as he was the last broadcast.
Fred Claus. Okay.
Gary Hubbard is up there. He's the division sales manager up in the Midwest.
Okay.
He's up there with his region sales manager, Trip Ward in Kentucky.
Okay.
And they're in a new hire sales class, if you can see that group there. 6 brand new Orkin pros, Victor, that are tuned into their first broadcast. So
There you go.
welcome, Team Kentucky. So just outstanding.
By the way, Trip Ward likes It's a Wonderful Life. I'm so with you, man. That's wholesome.
Nice.
That's good. You know,
Nice. There's
every
a couple-
bell an angel gets its way. That was my favorite line.
What else?
Yeah.
Christmas Story, all about Ralphie. There you
Christmas
go.
Story. I'm telling you, that leg lamp, right? The leg lamp. I love the leg lamp. I did tell you this, Ed, right? I like the leg lamp.
Yes,
That's what-
I
that's
know.
what
Yeah, we
said.
talked about that. Home Alone 1 and 2. There you go.
Nightmare Before Christmas, wonderful, man. That's a lovely one. I love that one.
Anyone who Jimmy Pigron, anyone who doesn't say Harry Potter is wrong.
Yeah,
What's that all about,
wow,
Jimmy?
I don't know.
That's a pretty strong stance.
That is a strong stat. I don't get it. By the way, Christmas Carol. I like I think it's like 1935 version, that real old one.
Yeah, the old school, the black
old
and white
school,
one.
Yeah, the old.
black and white.
It's tearing a little bit. Yeah, they got the cheesy graphics and the visual images. So yes, good one here. Die Hard just keeps coming back, man. It's just this. Frosty the Snowman, I can deal with that. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, I love it, man.
There's the
All right.
Grinch. I told you about this the last time. So
Tell them.
I've got 2 granddaughters up in Pittsburgh that love watching the Grinch. One's 2, one's 5. And I'm kind of disturbed that like my daughter and my son-in-law allow them to watch it. I don't think it's age appropriate. But they have Grinch pajamas.
Right.
They have even little Grinch dolls. And literally, they started watching this thing like 2 months
Right,
ago.
right.
And they watch it every night. It's like their bedtime story. I just think it's creepy. But based on, and I told you this earlier, my little girl Peyton is in surgery right now to repair a hernia. So if y'all pray or whoever you talk to out there, help out that little 5-year-old up in Pittsburgh. What else we got? Who else
I don't
you got?
know. This Brant Covey dude, Emmett Otter Jug Band Christmas.
I know.
Emmett Otter Jug Band Christmas. What is wrong with you, man? I'm like, what is that?
Jimmy's taking a strong stance.
Yeah.
He says he stands by that Harry Potter statement.
Yeah. And by the way, Home Alone 4. Is there a Home Alone 4?
I have no idea.
No. All right. Let's get to this, man.
What else we got?
That's it. Let's get to some good stuff. Let's get to some business.
I do want to talk a little bit about the RSM meeting last week. We shared this on the commercial broadcast. Some of our sales managers tune into both, but I think it's worth sharing again. You know, we had, for the first time since 2019, we had all of our sales leadership in town in Atlanta here last week, and baby, just face to face.
Yeah, it was nice.
You know, and just I think all the best practice sharing we went through. I think everybody came away with a few nuggets. Some of the salespeople out there may be saying, "What did you guys do to my sales manager down there?
Right.
He got all these new plans that he came back with, and he's wearing me out, or she's wearing me out." But just a really good session, and Victor had a chance to talk to him too. What were your takeaways on it?
My big takeaway was when Freeman spoke. So I thought that was very powerful.
Talk a little bit about that.
So Freeman, I'd never heard Freeman speak before. So, and his name was
Freeman's our president, by the way.
Yeah, so it's John Freeman Elliott. Is that his name? So anyway, he spoke, and I heard him speak for the first time. By the way, what a great presenter. And he was talking about the fact that he became an accidental Orkin dude for 32 years. It was accidental, which is just amazing. I think the other big takeaway I talked about was, you know, how do we onboard people and how do we keep people on board? And so we talked about different strategies about how to train people so they're faster in terms of getting to value. So we should have recorded that session, Ed.
Yeah, I think we should have. I think we should have. The other one of the takeaways that I had from last week was, you know, certainly Freeman's message. I mean, Freeman's been my boss for the last 22 years, so you know that's kind of a very melancholy kind of going away with Freeman as he says goodbye. But I think the story, particularly, I mean, you just even think about the folks up in Kentucky, up in Lexington, in that room. You know, you may be here a week, a month, you know, a couple months, whatever, but you're brand new in your job. Just be mindful that Freeman Elliott, the outgoing president of Orkin Pest Control started as a lawn care technician in Augusta, Georgia, just taking the job till he found something else when he got out of school at the University of Georgia. So, just understand that if you put your name in lights here and you do good work, all the way up to the president, and he put himself in a financial position to retire at 54 years old.
54.
54.
That's amazing.
So just a great
Well
story.
done. Yeah.
The other takeaway that I think is important to share with this team is the incoming president, right? Is Pat Chernowski. He was the, I guess today he's the division president for the Midwest Division. But Pat's message was very succinct and very clear to the sales leaders that were in the room, is that, are we built for growth in 2023? Pat has made a career out of just growing the bejesus out of the business. Everywhere he's been, starting out in the Tennessee region and then working his way through the division. Very sales focused, very growth driven. And I thought his message to the RSMs, which he will then deliver to the region managers in January at their big meeting,
right,
is this: are you built for growth? So, hiring the people, getting the people on board to get the work done. I think our RSMs came away with that, like, oh, what a great message,
Right.
Let's keep building on that. So I think
did he provide any initial thoughts about some of the things you might want to implement right away, or
not necessarily implement, but just get us where we need to go. We've struggled obviously to staff and keep people on board.
Right.
And the turnover. I mean, everybody's challenged with that a bit, but making sure that we have the bodies to get the work done, that these folks get out there and sell.
I got you. Yeah.
And of course, bringing more of these folks on board as well.
Kind of like some new energy, some new juice to the game. Yeah. I like that.
Can I vent for just a minute?
Dude, go ahead. This is why we're here, man.
So, somebody called the police. Bodie got robbed last night on The Voice, and any of you that watch The Voice know that Bodie got robbed. And my wife picked.
Wait, back up.
It's The Voice.
Okay, Bodie.
Bodie was the hands-down winner. It's the only TV I watch other than live sporting events. I went to The Voice because I'm still bitter. I'm like, how did that happen? How did Bodie win this thing? And 90% of that audience out there doesn't care, but I got it off my chest.
By the way, it's not 90. I think 99% of the audience doesn't care.
There's a couple.
If you're with me, raise your hand. I mean, it's I really don't care about them. I didn't even know about, really?
In the message I sent out the other night, just to give you an idea, I had 37 responses, right? I said, I'm for Bodie, and my wife was for the girl that, that came in, I guess, third or whatever. 37 responses. Nobody of the 37 picked the guy that won.
You're really vested in this, aren't you? You're really vested in this.
It hurts my heart, man. It hurts my heart. Let's talk about some
let's get
numbers.
down to business. Let's get down to business here.
Sorry about that little bunny trail, but it hurt me, man. It hurt me.
I feel
big
your
time.
Pain. I feel your pain.
So let's talk about some performance. We've got November numbers in, and I'll start out with month to date. I'm going to focus primarily, Victor, on the termite performance, for this team, because that's primarily what this gang sells. They sell a little bit of commercial pest control and some residential pest control as well, but the real crux of what our home inspectors sell is termite sales, or termite services. So our traditional termite sales for November were up 10% over last year. That's the old drill it and fill it, and the conventionals, or some of the Perimeter Plus stuff that we're still doing in some markets. Our termite bait slipped a little bit last month. We had a 9% year-over-year increase in termite bait sales in November of 2022. Where we continue to kill it and slay it, and we talk about this all the time, Victor, is in the ancillary services. In November, as a company, our ancillary service line, our ancillary service sales were up 34% year over year, and that one just keeps going. You package it all up and you put it all together for your total termite sales for the company. We're talking a 21% month over month increase, 21%. And again,
amazing numbers, man.
Yeah,
amazing.
And we keep talking about, and Victor gives me a hard time all the time. Why do you keep talking about all this stuff over and over again?
Yeah.
It is that proverbial broken record that y'all just keep slaying it. And to roll them up, year to date, traditional termite is up 8% year to date, across the company. Termite bait is up 13%. One thing we know about termite bait, so we encourage you all the time to sell more termite bait. That stuff is really sticky. Those $300-$400 renewals keep coming in, because the folks see those little green stations around the outside of their house. So there's been a big press to sell more termite bait, and you all have slayed it there. The ancillary sales year to date, 36% year over year. And our total termite sales are a 20% increase over last year.
These are just huge numbers.
Yeah.
These are big numbers.
Monster numbers.
Especially year over year, but just huge numbers.
Yeah, and the thing was, I've been an Orkin guy for a long time, right? You can have year over year improvements.
Right.
If you put it in the ditch last year, it's not hard to get a year over year improvement.
Right.
But our termite sales last year
Right.
were up 19% year over year. The previous year, in 2020, they were up 22%. So this is something that just continues to build at astronomical levels, in my mind, for a mature sales organization, right? It's not, we've been doing this for 100 years, and we've been putting up 20% increases for the last 4. And it just continues.
So what are you attributing that to? I mean, I know there's a lot of factors, but what are you saying? Besides the fact these folks are doing their job, but I mean, from a socioeconomic standpoint, what do you see that's different that's keeping this going?
Couple things I think are happening. And I think the first thing is, as we're kind of spreading this ancillary love across the country. Like, so when you first launch ancillary services, some of these exclusion things and some of these attic remediations, it's kind of a slow growth. You'll have a branch manager in a region say, we're going to tackle this. Okay. And then you get the other branches looking around like, oh, what are they doing over there? They're cleaning my clock, I got to do something. And then you start to see the regions then do the same thing. Well, what are they doing down there? How are they doing this?
Right.
And then the divisions are like, oh, what's going on here?
Right.
So you got kind of, I guess, your pace setters and the folks that are out front, kind of leading from the front, and then everybody looking around like, how do I get 30% sales increases?
Interesting.
And I think that's happened. The other thing that's happened is our team has collectively gotten way better at closing with REC. Now, we're not where we want to be, but we have a 33% increase. And most of our stuff that is racked or financed or delayed billing, however you want to call it, is termite related. So it's these folks doing it, is up 33% year over year. And again, that kind of, I don't know if it's kind of the chicken or the egg.
Right.
But we got the REC stuff popping. We got the total termite column popping. I think that's what's going on with that, I guess, that spread of just the mentality is like.
So it's almost like an adoption, like a diffusion curve. When you hear a diffusion curve, certain people start doing it. The more people start doing it, then it becomes very mature. Everybody starts doing it.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Wow.
And that's exactly what's going on to my mind. And we've got some folks in some markets that have aggressively upstaffed, and that's kind of the message for next year. I think all of our division plans are set on bringing more people on board. Not only more folks to do the work, but adding more headcounts to go out and visit all these homes that we have to inspect.
What's your net headcount increase, decrease from last year? Well, if you were to do headcount.
On the residential side of the business, we're up about 8% over last year, headcount total. Okay. We're about flat, quite frankly, on the commercial side. But we're projecting to add 15% more headcount across the board next year. It's going to be an aggressive stance to bring 15% more bodies in.
So overall growth for residential for the year will be what? Where do you think you'll land?
For this year?
Yeah.
Well, we've had, as you know, we've had kind of a shortfall in our residential pest. We'll be right in that 15% growth.
So 8% increase in terms of headcount and about 15% increase overall revenue.
Yep.
Interesting.
Production per employee's gone way up. Our folks are making more money than they ever have. 95% of the folks on this call made more money this year than they did last year.
Nice.
Which is a great story.
Love it.
Which is a great
story.
Love it.
That's great news.
We're talking about $266 million in termite sales this year, which is just, God love y'all. God love y'all.
Nice.
Victor, we had some really good performances individually as well.
Oh, are we going to see those?
We are going to see those. So let's if you're on this call and you're a manager, shout your people out as you see them pop up there. So Stormy, let's go to the tape and show the 13 home sales inspectors that got paid on more than $100,000 last month.
Coming to town. Oh my God!
What do you think of that?
Great numbers, great numbers. By the way, I'm just happy to see California finally pulling their weight.
Now save that for the next broadcast.
Yeah,
they're still
doesn't
sleeping.
Matter. I know that's why I'm saying it now, because they're sleeping. Yeah, good for California, but yeah, so that's Hassan, the Corpez guy is up here again. I don't know where the brother's at, but
I don't know where Where is Ray Brown? Maybe Hassan can wrangle him in and get him up there next
Yeah.
time. I see Roger Kennedy on the list. I think Roger's made the list every time. And in fact, Victor, Stormy gave me heck for wearing my tie the last time, right? She said it was all frazzled and it was falling apart. This is a tie designed. We used to let the field folks design the President's Club ties.
Right.
This is the tie designed by Roger Kennedy.
Okay.
By Roger Kennedy for one of our President's Clubs in Canada. So to the folks in Kentucky there, you've got a high bar there as you come on board. You got a guy, Roger Kennedy, that's made President's Club, I believe, don't holler at me, Roger, like 34 times. The #1 all-time termite salesman ever in Orkin.
Nice.
Ever in Orkin. Right there in Beckley, West Virginia.
Beckley, and you got the Worth brothers up there.
Yeah, the Worth brothers. Yeah.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
And then Illinois, got to give a shout out.
Sambu.
I'm going to take a shot at that last day. Hemchadranath.
Sambu's on here. Maybe he'll give you a
Sambu.
thumbs up or something.
Yeah,
but he just tells me all the time, just call me Sambu. And he's there all the time, right? Another Chairman's Club guy.
I love it, man. Great numbers, though, by the way.
Yeah, Ricky Schmidt, Ivan Velasquez. Well, he's on the next call, too. Just outstanding. Mark Jones for the second time. Mark, I'll get your gift card out later. So we do give gift cards out for these guys, right? And these gals.
Yes. Jay has a question. I don't know what that is.
Jay who?
Ed. Wasn't 180,000 in your day?
That's Jay Fusco. Yes. Yeah. That's used to earn it. So in the beginning when we started selling, back in Jay, that was President's Club the first year I went, but that was in 1985. But yeah, I mean, 180,000 used to be a year. I mean, you were a star if you sold that. Now we got cats throwing that up in a month.
That's nice. That's amazing numbers,
sick,
man.
Just sick.
So
sick,
these do have the gift cards. What are the gift cards again? Remind me.
So the gift cards,
like
because Victor raised the ante on me last week, or last time we did this broadcast. If you made it to the 100,000, you made the list, you got a $100 gift card, and then it was 200 for everybody that was over 200,000. But you worked it to somehow. I remember because I watched the broadcast to make sure I got this right. Everybody over 150. To include Hassan, Ricky Schmidt, and Ivan, will get $200 gift cards. $200 gift cards, and the leader Brian Worth is going to pick up a $500 gift card.
There you go.
Everybody
there
else
you go.
on the
there
list
you
is
go,
under.
Brian.
I'm going broke. The good thing is all those sales they're making converted to profit. So I'm going to make sure I get those things paid this year, so we don't carry that over.
I love it, man. Congratulations.
Again, 13 folks, and
wonderful numbers.
For the folks in Lexington, the new folks, do the math on 14% of 100,000. They're knocking down 15,000 or better in a month when you figure in the $1,000 in salary we pay you.
Well done, man. Well done.
So Victor, I thought I would change pace a bit and kind of make this like one of those recap of the year, right? Yeah. Like this time of year, you get the top 100 songs of the year, and you listen to that, or top 100 songs forever.
You know what I look forward to?
What do you look forward to?
This is the weirdest thing. I look forward to, this is going to sound morbid, but I truly do. I look forward to seeing who died this year.
Oh my God, that is morbid.
Is that just me? I just like it's kind of like it
like
kind of
when they do the Oscars and they show the people that all died?
the people, the in memoriam. I always like that. I don't know why, because I think it makes you appreciate life more. Is that a very
That's dark. That's
a little dark, but I'm just going there.
That's dark.
But anyway, let's move on to more positive.
I would prefer to kind of recap the broadcast that we had. So we kicked these off together in May with you, and we just kind of want to check through it. We got 15 or 20 minutes to kind of check through these, just kind of highlighting some. And the very first broadcast that we did, Victor, we served up. We introduced you to the Sales Velocity Academy, which if you do not have access to the Sales Velocity Academy, we're going to button this up once and forever. Get it to your RSM. RSMs, get those names to your DSMs, your email addresses, get them to the DSM and have them send them, not to me, I'm going to have them send them to Camille. So the DSMs, I'll get you an email later where they need to go to Victor's daughter to get you added. So let's clean that up before the year ends. So the Sales Velocity Academy, we did the introduction. And
that was May. Let's kind of chunk this up. That was May.
Yeah.
So, because again, I was commenting to Ed this morning that as we put together all the things that we covered over the year, it's amazing how much stuff we covered. So May, we introduced the Sales Velocity Academy.
And I want to think about it.
I want to think about it. Again, remember, you got to have that response down. It's such a beautiful phrase. When someone says, let me think about it, what do you say? How do you respond? We gave you the phrasing. Again, that should be like hard-coded in your memory. And then if we can move on to June, we talked about closing the credibility gap and building some trust between clients, because I think that's where some of the sales are lost. What do you think?
Yeah, agreed. That symmetry, asymmetry,
Yeah.
and eye level is bi-level.
Yep.
Don't talk down to them with all these technical terms, and you got to kind of meet them where they're at. That's a line that Petronowski uses
Right.
all the time. Meet them where they're at. I think that's important. I guess as we serve these up over the year, our hope and our goal was that you would take a deeper dive. We're going to tease you with it. We kind of called it skipping stones a couple
Right.
of times. That you would take a deeper dive into that. So if you haven't, we'd certainly like you to do that. The one thing I will tell you is all these broadcasts are out on my YouTube channel. So I'll send you the link out that tonight and give you that link to that, so you can go back and pick up these broadcasts. But what else did we talk about in June? That eye level is bi-level.
Yeah.
I think that's where you shared the basketball
In the hole in the wall.
hole in the wall as
Yeah.
a visual.
Using visuals, how much heat they're losing, which translates into money. The more visuals you can use, which leads into July.
Yeah.
By the way, one of my favorite courses in the Sales Velocity Academy is Inside the Client's The Buying Mind, right? Because it talks about how we can present things logically, but if it emotionally doesn't impact the client, they're not going to make a move. They're not going to move forward. I'll think about it, let me get back to you. So when we talk about using visuals, which you guys do very well when you're doing your inspections, walkthrough, and you're showing the customer pictures, those actually hit that reptilian brain, right? That fight or flight brain where it makes them go, I need to do something about this. And the more we can invoke some of those visuals, and I'm not trying to say scare the crap out of your clients, I'm not saying that, but people, unless they see something visually or make it visually, it won't have the impact. So I think that's the power of using, what is it, the Home Suite or the Business Suite to go through it. Yeah.
Using this tool here,
Yep,
right?
correct.
With your killer
I
pictures.
love
and all
that.
kind
That's
of
a
thing.
great strategy.
Yeah, and the other thing, we talked about them being visual, but at the same time, you can paint the picture without showing pictures, right? And the one that I always like to use when we're selling termite work, some of your competitors will be bait only, right? Like there's an outfit down here in the Atlanta market that just goes strictly bait, and there's some outfits that go strictly liquid. So I always like to use, our approach with the Orkin DL&B, the directed liquid and bait, as that belt and suspenders. Kind of paint that picture that, this is the biggest investment you're ever going to make. What I want you to make sure, what we want you to be completely sure of what we're going to do. So we're going to come in, we're going to kill the termites with the liquid right now, and we're going to put that bait defense around the outside. Quite frankly, giving you both, kind of that belt and suspenders approach to the biggest investment you're probably going to have in your lifetime.
And who was Max McGee?
Yeah, we had this story.
Who was Max McGee? I forgot.
Max McGee was the guy that turned out being a superstar in the very first Super Bowl, right? So their number one receiver, Boyd Dowler, got hurt. The guys up in Green Bay, remember this. He got hurt, and Max McGee never figured he would play.
Right.
Never thought he'd play in the Super Bowl. So he went out the night before the Super Bowl and got hammered, completely hammered. So Max McGee ends up catching, 2 or 3 touchdown passes in the game. Bart Starr ends up being the MVP. But Max McGee, when you're selling gutters, you know how Max McGee died, Victor? This is painting that picture.
Yeah, all right.
Max McGee died,
Right.
literally died at 75 years old, cleaning out his gutters.
Okay.
So if you imagine Max McGee, I think he was number 85, falling off
Right.
his roof. That's painting a visual picture when they think about, I can do that myself. I don't want you to end up like Max McGee.
I know, but it has such a mixed message in there. Because basically what you're saying is Max McGee liked to go drinking, and he was a high performer.
Well, I never, if they know who Max McGee is, they know he was hammered the night before.
Okay, so you're telling these folks over to go sell residential, get hammered the night before to execute well at the residential.
Did you guys, somebody put in the chat, is that what I said?
I'm just
I
saying,
believe
there's like
what
mixed messages in there. Yeah, go get hammered the night before you visit a client.
Maybe that's just for me.
I'm just
but
saying.
if you're in the Green Bay market, you're in the Midwest, spin that story.
But it's a good story. You don't want to do it yourself. These things can happen. So I love
Yeah,
the
a lot of the ancillary services, particularly that we sell, the insulation and some of the exclusion and those kind of things. There's a lot of knuckleheads that think they can do it themselves.
Right.
There's not many people wired like me that don't even have a hammer in their house, right? There's people that I can do that myself.
Yep.
And you got to kind of diffuse that.
And that's usually a red herring also.
100%.
Because they're not going to do it themselves. They're just trying to get you out the door or come up with some excuse to rationalize why they shouldn't buy.
Yeah, my story about insulation, Jay's on here, right?
Yeah.
It took me 8 years to buy insulation because, believe it or not, I was going to go down to Home Depot and rent the machine and put the stuff up in my attic. I never did it.
Yeah.
I never did it. So
By the way, the great sales questionnaire is why haven't you done it already?
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And that you go, you're not going to.
There's no answer.
You're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Amen. No, that's awesome. So then we moved into August, right?
August.
Yeah.
August, we went into some negotiation, mirroring the customers to establish rapport. I thought that was a powerful one. We also talk about, the don't get caught selling. I always get back to the fact that, you got to sell the way you sell. And I know I'm telling you what you already know. but sometimes we forget. We try to sound a certain way. We try to use words that just don't fit natural. Every time we talk about scripts and everything, I always remind you and everybody else is that you got to use it your way. Be authentic. I think that's really the big thing when it comes to persuasion.
Yeah, they convinced me to come to do this podcast. That's I think it's going to launch in the next couple of days. And they asked me like, what were my key learnings in my career here? My 1,000-year career here. And the very first one, Victor, that I'll share on the podcast, and maybe y'all will listen to it, is the fact of practice. And when Jay Fusco and I started in this business in '83, we actually had proposal booklets, and we actually had stickers that you stuck on them that said, say this sentence this way.
Right.
And it was that scripting, but you never wanted it to come across as scripted, so you practiced till you made it yours.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what you're hinting at there, right?
Yeah, don't read the prompter.
Don't read the prompter. We are perfect examples of that, right?
We don't too many of those, but I think that's the big one. September when we talked about blocking objections and practicing those.
We introduced that. Remember,
Yep.
we spent 2 broadcasts on blocking objections, and if you remember, that's the reason Victor's in front of you. Like 12 years ago, 10 years ago, 11 years ago,
Something
I guess.
like that,
I stumbled upon him on YouTube and encouraged them because I think the people that were working with me as their sales leader, they'd heard everything, and they needed a new voice, and I just love the approach on blocking objections. So there's a book, but give them an overview of that just real quick.
Okay, so again, the blocking objections, you guys are familiar with it. If you're not, you should be. The story I tell is how I started learning about blocking objections. Once I started doing it, I can literally feel the customer's resistance going down. So blocking objection means you raise the objection, which means you control the objection, but how you tuck it away, how you tie down the objection is the key. So in the book, Response Block Selling, which you have access to in the Sales Velocity Academy, I have like 22 or 23 different scripts that you can use for all the objections you typically get. Now, as a reminder, this comes with a warning. That is, if an objection is never really raised, it's more of an exception rather than the rule, then don't ever raise that objection. So, like, what is one of your most popular objections you often get?
Well, I think that the one we think is the biggest objection is your price, right? I
Right.
mean, we're the highest price folks in the market, right? Certainly you have to resign yourself to that, but that's the one that comes up, and that's the one that we should really have some thoughts on how we're going to block that.
Yeah, I remember the study I highlighted for you guys I talked about Albert Morabian. He says when people make a judgment call on whether they trust you or not, he said 55% is visual, right? How you look, your body language, your posture. 38% is actually your vocalization, how you say it. And only 7% was actually the verbiage used. So think about this. The majority of decisions of whether I like you or not is based on how you look, how you react, body language. But 38% is vocalization. What does that mean? It's the tone in your voice, how you say it, without hesitation. And too often, people who are scared of their own price, they don't believe that they're worth the value, struggle to get that number out or speak it with confidence. Ed, I can't tell you how many times I talk to companies over and over again. They always bring up, well, price is our biggest objection, to which I say, no, it ain't.
Yeah, I agree.
It's how you deliver the price. That's your objection.
Amen.
If you hesitate, they'll notice it. If you pause, they'll hesitate. But as Grant Cardone likes to say, my bud, lean in the direction of the objection. I've always loved that phrase. I wish I came up with that phrase. That was such a great phrase.
Amen.
Because lean in the direction of the objection. I love that.
Yeah, I was messing around on Cardone's site last night.
Yeah.
And guess who Grant Cardone has featured on his site? This guy. He's got the Sales Velocity Academy that he charges $795 for. I'm like, ooh, we got a bargain.
Yeah, you did get a bargain.
We got a bargain.
Good stuff, though. Good stuff.
No, and I think one of the things we talked about is, when we talk about blocking objections, I think you got to earn the right to block the objection. You can't do a haphazard job and just kind of half bake it and throw it out there. And when the price objection comes up, you start to spin this magical language that we teach you, right? And that you've practiced. You can't do that if you haven't done everything perfect. You didn't show up on time. You didn't look the part. You didn't do a phenomenal graph, a phenomenal presentation, a phenomenal inspection. And closing or with delayed billing, you don't dare have the audacity to say I can't block that objection when you don't deliver that perfect experience for that customer up front.
Right.
I think we're kidding ourselves. Oh, that blocking objection doesn't work. Well, you showed up late. You didn't get in the attic. You didn't do a whole home inspection. You didn't close with deferred billing, and then you tried to block the price objection at the end. Who are you kidding, right? So
it doesn't work.
Nah.
By the way, I don't even doubt that blocking the objection works. I see it used over and over again. Even people in just general speech, if you really listen to them, they're sometimes blocking objections by basically telling the customers, look, what I'm about to show you may impact you negative or positive. But when you block an objection you raised at the beginning early on, like pricing, for example, I mean, you just don't walk through the door, Ed, and say, we're expensive, right? You don't do that. But
100%.
one of the things you highlight a lot, I love, is that you say you got to earn the right, which is do the actual inspections, take your time doing it, spend some time doing it. So when you do come back for that first debrief, they know you've taken the time to do that. And based on what you come back with, the content, so to speak, what you found, will determine how you can position that pricing.
Yeah.
What would you add to that?
The only thing I would add to it is, when I started adopting this, right, I get a chance to sell once in a while, right? Either riding with the salesperson, but I'll use the example from just, when was it? It was Tuesday. We presented to Inspire Brands. They're based here in Atlanta. They own a ton of Arby's. They own a whole lot of restaurants. They own 3,000 restaurants. And we presented to them. And I served up price very early in the conversation and made them very aware that we were going to be more money, right?
Right.
Because I know it's coming. So they couldn't say that. They couldn't say, well, your price is, you're $5, you're $6, you're $8 more than Ecolab. They couldn't say it because I already beat them to it,
yeah,
right?
you already said it.
So that put that on the table, and then when you do that and you start to frame price a little bit like that, it gives you the opportunity to block the objections so they don't say it, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't come out of their mouth because it was a room. They had 8 or 9 people on the call. If one of them characters would have said, "Why are you guys so much more than the other folks?" We were toast, because if that gets said in that situation, you're done. And if you're sitting with the couple and one of them says, "Why is your price higher?" Before you address it and block it,
Screwed.
You're swimming uphill.
It's hard.
Swimming
and again,
uphill? Swimming uphill?
Yes, swimming
Swimming
uphill.
upstream.
Swimming uphill is fine. Your metaphors and analogies are somewhat screwed, but that's okay.
Victor gives me such a hard time. Some of the guys even put it in the chat.
Yeah, last week
about
what was it? The last broadcast you said somebody was carrying the bacon.
Carrying the bacon instead of carrying the mail.
Yeah.
So he makes fun of my South Side of Youngstown upbringing in my language.
But I agree with that. I mean, one of the things we have to keep in mind, once somebody vocalizes on their side, it's hard to overcome that. And this is not theory, it's science. Yeah. Psychologically, what happens is they've taken a mental stance. Because they've taken a mental stance, it's hard to change their mind. So raising the objection before they do is an excellent way.
Amen.
Last month, we talked about my favorite topic,
Yeah.
mastering the upsell.
The one that these folks are really good at, right? When you think about all those $150 million in ancillary sales,
Right.
Those are all upsells. Nobody calls us for an attic exclusion job. They call us because they got mice or they got rodents, and then we turn it into that upsell from the regular pest control. Nobody really calls us for attic insulation. Nobody looks in the phone book and says, "Oh, let's call Orkin and get a bid, honey, for the insulation." Nobody does that. So these are all upsell opportunities. Primarily, all this ancillary stuff is sold to our current pest control customers, or our re-inspections, or on a lead where we go out and do a good job of bundling. Somebody calls in because they have termites, and then we walk out of there with a $20,000 bundle. But these folks are really good at it.
Right.
And I think what we did a lot on the last broadcast, and we did it with the commercial folks, on Monday, was we shared some of the phrasing that you could use to kind of tee it up. And I thought that was a good, that seemed to be a pretty, one that resonated in the takeaways.
Have you, and I've asked you this question before, maybe on the commercial side, I'm putting you on the spot again. When you look at what these folks have done on the upselling piece, are you able to kind of analyze, what percentage of revenue is that? Here's the initial order, and then when we do upselling, we typically get another, 30, 40% more.
Yeah, our ancillaries, again, those you almost have to attribute all of that to an upsell. Like I said, you'll get a lead, an inbound lead that comes in that's not upsell, it's kind of bundled. It's a different terminology. But the pure upsells to the re-inspections and the PC customers, you roll into a pest control customer to do a home inspection that they're entitled to, part of their service, and you walk out of there with a $12,000, $15,000 bundle. That's a pure upsell.
That's
so
nice.
Our ancillary services are about, they're somewhere in the neighborhood, depending on the market, right? Some are really, really good at it in areas. And again, when we try to compare numbers, but I would say that as a company as a whole, about 40%, 45% of our ancillary sales are attributed to upsells.
That's a beast.
It's a monster.
It's a monster of a number.
Yeah.
I would love to know, and putting you on the spot again, what is the customer lifetime value of a residential client? And that is, and then what period of time would you measure that over? So let's work that backwards.
We do a ton of measurement with those numbers, right?
What's an average that a customer stays with you in residential?
13 months.
13 months.
13 months.
It can't be 13 months. No, I mean they stay lifetime value. Like
13 months, and most they kind of bail after that point because we get a lot that drop off right in the beginning.
Okay.
Right. So I mean, we get a good chunk of them that don't make it past the first year.
Okay.
Right. They sign up, they got a problem, we sell them a recurring service, and the problem goes away, and they leave. Right. A problem solved, so they leave.
Is that like a 80-20 split, 70-30 split?
Probably 70-30 would be
70-30 split. Okay.
But but the customers that have an additional service, if they have termite service with
Right.
us, or they put some sort of moisture product in place, some,
Right.
some sort of renewal,
Gotcha.
that business is even stickier. That stuff sticks around about 18, 20 months on average,
Okay.
accounting for all the ones that drop off early in the process.
Okay.
It's kind of, and we
That's
do
it.
measure it by buckets. I
Yeah.
don't have that kind of detail. And I don't
Sure.
know that they're interested in that kind of detail, but we do measure it by 3-month buckets, 6-month buckets, 9 months.
But the big point, something that's again just highlighted because we don't talk about this often enough, that the more products or services I can sell you, the stickier the situation is. In other words, we extend the lifetime.
100%.
Yeah, I love
You
it.
sell a bait job to a pest control customer, we're going to keep them for almost 3 years because they don't cut.
Yeah,
when we
seriously.
put those green Centricon stations around the outside of a house, people that stuff retains at about a 95% clip.
Yeah.
They don't leave. They don't leave because when they get their renewal bill, we send them a bill every year. It's
Right.
going to charge them whatever to renew that coverage.
Yeah.
If we just did a liquid treatment there, they don't see those stations.
Right.
But every time they're cutting their grass or messing around in
Yeah.
their flower beds, they see those green stations. And they're working to protecting my house from
It would
termites.
be interesting, Ed, to calculate just customer lifetime value depending on the service or the types of service you sell.
We have that
because,
stuff.
right? And those are great numbers to have. Because it's like you start seeing that the more services I sell, the longer they stick, the bigger the lifetime value, the more revenue I make.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I love that.
We did talk a little bit. One of these things, and it's this time of year for most of the country, particularly the East Coast and the Midwest folks that are predominantly on this call, is selling these ancillary services. The PC,
Right.
no TCs, and the re-inspections, creating that urgency. And we talked
Right.
quite a bit about creating the urgency and how to do that, and we spent a lot of time on
I
that.
think we highlighted the visuals already. Anything you can do to create this is serious, you need to take care of it. We even talked about the upsell phrase, right? You seriously need to consider this
seriously need
and
to
things of
consider
that
this.
nature.
And just like we talked about, just the syllable, right? Emphasizing the syllable of the word.
Right.
Not. I got something I want you to look at. I got something you need to seriously, Victor,
Look at.
consider.
Yeah.
And it just drives it home. Or I got something
It's
really
that simple
really
sometimes.
cool to show you.
Yeah.
And you show them that excluder, garage door sweep. When the mice been getting into their garage for 20 years. And they know the holes are there, and they're trying to patch them up. They're taping them up, and
Yep.
you walk in with this really cool door sweep that's going to last like forever, right? And you put that, and they can't chew through this. So, I mean, that kind
All
of
these
stuff.
phrases add up. By the way, just for context, I was talking about the Jerry Seinfeld book where he talks about in a joke, he narrows it down to a syllable. And he says, I can just chop off a syllable and it makes all the difference in the pitch. And I keep emphasizing this even when I train people. Sometimes it's just a word like you seriously need to look at. Even the tone, just when you just change the tone, and sometimes just the tightness of a sentence or a phrase makes all the difference in how the receiver receives it.
Amen.
Anything else?
Let's click through the chat and see if there's anything there, because I think that's kind of a wrap up. Again,
Yep.
They're all out on my YouTube channel, and they're dated, November, whatever. But we're going to send out. Victor said, clean this summary up and send it
Yep.
out. So if they're looking for something specific, they can go find it, and I'll do that over the next week or so.
Steven says, I always give you a hard time. I don't believe that to be true.
Thank you, Stephen Genter.
I don't believe that to be true. Let me see. Highest price with the highest value, says Jimmy from Baton Rouge. Yeah, I like that.
I turned Jimmy off when he thought that Harry Potter was a Christmas movie. Sorry, Jimmy. I like Jimmy. Jimmy's a Chairman's Club salesman, too.
Yeah, always. Well, let him think what he wants then. Good points on price and framing, says Jason. Love framing. It's always a good thing. Any comments from you guys? Now's the time to write them in. Ed?
Yeah, if you fill in the chat, if you got anything. I guess first and foremost, I just want to thank you all for just what has been a massive 2022 on the back of a couple of 20 and 21. What you've been able to do along with our commercial bit sellers, grew their business double digits as well. But it's going to end up somewhere between 10 and 12% over last year. What you guys and gals have done on the residential side of our home inspectors with this 20% increase in termite-related services has really kind of helped us overcome what has been a decrease in residential pest control demand. When the pandemic hit, our residential PC sales just blew in the doors.
Right.
Giving us, as our termite sales force, a whole bunch of places to go. But we had a severe decline. We had an 11% lead decrease in 2022 of residential folks calling us looking for rodent or roaches and that kind of stuff. So when that happens, that's pretty painful as a company. The good news is the folks at the call center flipped that whole deal. They had 11% sales or lead decrease, 11% less calls to them.
Right.
And they generated almost a 5% increase. So that's like
Really?
a 16% swing. So they're getting better at closing. They're getting
nice.
better at bundling.
That's amazing.
But what really happened is your 20% offset all the shortfalls we had in residential.
By the way, we should give a big
PC.
shout out to Tim over at the call center,
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if he's on this one or not,
Yeah,
but
big
yeah,
shout
for
out
sure.
to Tim.
April's on here. I saw April. I saw
Yeah.
Michelle on here.
So Tim is finally earning his money. Good man. Good man.
He,
Good
he,
man.
he sent everybody home a couple years ago, and I think Tim just sits around in his underwear and just takes calls, right?
I don't
But,
want that visual in my head. I don't want that
no,
visual.
again, really, really big kudos to our call center.
Yeah.
Call center folks.
So
They're all remote.
decrease 11%, increase sales 5%.
17% net. I mean, that's
Wonderful.
like almost. I mean, that just helped us
Yeah,
big time.
cool.
But again, the results that we've got from these folks have kind of, I guess, covered all the sins of the shortfall.
Yeah, nicely
and,
done.
And
Well
doing,
done.
doing much more with more.
I
What
got nothing else.
Anything else in the chat?
We're good. We're good.
Cool. All right,
Horrible
we're-
movie choices, but other than that, we're good.
Yeah, there were some bad movie choices. All right, cool.
Big shout out to Sam Burke. I see you, Sam.
I guess the only thing we'd ask, so here's your way you can gift us. Whatever holiday you celebrate, even if you don't celebrate a holiday, give us something back based out of this broadcast. We kind of measure what we do based on the feedback that y'all post in your group me chats. So alls we want you to do, when you hang up and get off this call, jump onto your group me and post one takeaway
Just one.
from either something you got out of this kind of recap broadcast or something you've picked up over the 7 that we've done so far.
Vincent
One.
Viola, you need to do that. Get off that pad.
Vincent-
Fayetteville
Vin-
158. Get
Vince-
in the game, man. Come on.
Vince,
Come on.
he always posts a takeaway. He's one
I
of
love
our
it.
easy
I love
ones.
it, man. Good
One
folks out there.
takeaway. That will convince us to keep doing this stuff.
Yeah.
We may change the cadence up a little bit
By
next
the way,
year,
you
but
know what
we're
I
gonna-
want to see next year? I want to see Sam Burke shave off his mustache.
I
Fan.
think
I want to see him shave off his mustache.
I
Just-
think
just
there-
take
there
that
could
baby
probably
off.
be a
He
better
could probably
range.
sell more. He could probably sell more if he did that.
between Gordon and the Tennessee folks, I think that's a bet that the termite inspectors in Tennessee ought to challenge Sam to and see if he'll put his money where his mouth is. You know, one time, Gary Scott, John Tessier, and Corey Smith, they were running the Virginia region, and they made a bet, and the sales team bet them that if they hit their goal, it was like $15 million or something. If they
Yeah.
hit the goal, they all had to shave their head and look like Victor for a month.
Oh, man, I think that'd be a good thing.
And those were 3 of the ugliest bald heads I've ever seen in my life, and there's still pictures out
I
there.
want the ladies to get into the bald-headed game. Samantha, what are you thinking? I'm thinking, Samantha, we can do this. Samantha's just like looking at me, not even answering that one.
Let's get
All
out
right,
of here.
Let's get out of here.
Welcome to all the folks up in Kentucky and any of the new folks that are on the call. You know, I started doing this in '83, and I've made a career out of it. You can do the same thing, and maybe you can be Freeman Elliott.
There you go.
Fair
Merry
enough.
Christmas to everybody, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.